All right, I've got 11:02, so let's go ahead and get started, everybody. I appreciate everybody being here. This is a good crowd, a pretty diverse group of MSPs. I'm going to move my windows to another screen where I can still keep track of everything. Now, hopefully you guys are seeing me. Apologies for that. But also hopefully you're seeing my slide full screen. If you are not, please let me know. And I do want to start with a question, actually. This is something just for later on in the presentation, but I'm curious about this. For those of you who are active MSPs, which I think is everybody on this call, when you're picking up a new client, what percentage of the time is that client coming from another MSP? In other words, what percentage of the time are you taking a client who is on some type of existing service plan with another provider and making them your client under your service plan, as opposed to taking a client who is unmanaged and bringing them onto a service plan for the first time? So what percentage of the time are you taking a client away from another MSP? Share that in the chat if you would, and I will come back to that question in a little bit. Meanwhile, we will jump in. So hey, everybody, my name is Chip Reeves. I'm the president of Bigger Brains. I appreciate you being here. This is a special webinar. We try to do an MSP webinar once a month to keep you updated on what's new with Bigger Brains. And this month, we're introducing a new partner in TBSC. I got introduced to TBSC a few weeks ago, and it's a really interesting product and really interesting solution that I haven't seen in the MSP space before, but which I think is pretty useful for all of us. So I'm really excited to introduce you guys to them today. Real quick, I'm going to give you a few introductions for Bigger Brains for anybody who's not familiar with us, or to update some of you that are less familiar with the new stuff we've got going on. And then I'm going to hand things over to Madison and Phil from TBSC so they can show off what they have to offer to the MSP community. So normally our team would include Nancy Williams and myself. Most of you know Nancy. Nancy is in Guam. She's moved back to Guam as of last week, and I've given up on trying to figure out what the time zone is in Guam. So she's not going to be with us on this call, but she's still your primary point of contact for Bigger Brains. She tends to be online early in the day, East Coast time, and then afternoon and evening, East Coast time. So she covers a pretty good amount of the normal business hours, just not the middle of the day, which is when this is. As I said, I'm Chip Reeves. Most of you, I think, know me. I've been a VAR / consultant / MSP since 1989. I've started 5 businesses, 4 of which were MSPs that were sold. And one of those was the Computer Troubleshooters franchise network that I'm probably best known for. So that's enough about me. Bigger Brains is something that we started back in 2012 as a training platform specifically for MSPs to be able to offer to their clients. So it was one of the needs we recognized back in my computer troubleshooter days, was that we had all these solutions for our clients. We had, cloud solutions were getting started kind of back then. We didn't have Office 365 quite yet. We had BPOS, but we saw these new technologies emerging, and we had, backup solutions. We had virus solutions. We had security solutions. And in looking at what we could offer to our clients, one of the things that came up was that our clients needed more training on how to use a lot of these tools they already had. And there wasn't really a good platform for doing that, at least not a platform that could be resold by MSPs. And so we built Bigger Brains specifically for that purpose. Some of you, I can tell from the list, have been in our MSP program for quite a while. Some of you are new to it, so welcome to everyone. Where we are today, the MSP program is still a big part of what we do, but we also have been kind of noticed by the corporate training community. So a large part of our business today is resale to other training companies who sell into the Fortune 500 and large enterprise clients. Through them, we've been very fortunate to win a lot of awards in the e-learning space. We've been recognized for best IT skills training by eLearning magazine for most of the last 6 years, as you can tell by all the little logos on the screen. In the past year, we've also been recognized by trainingindustry.com and the Craig Weiss Group as one of the best content providers, which is really exciting for us because both of those are very reputable organizations in the community. Today, we have over 180 courses. And one of the big announcements we made late last year is now all of our courses are accessible through Microsoft Teams. So in the past, and still today, MSPs and others would generally access our courses through our web portal. Your customers would come to our website, or your customers would go to your website. They would log in and they would access our course library from there, or they would access it through one of the tool partners that we work with, for example, Cloud Radio, Desk Director, and Envirosoft, and they would access directly from the app that their MSPs provided them there. Now we also have the ability for your customers to access through Microsoft Teams with our Teams app. We did a whole demo on that back in November and December. If you need a recording of that, let me know. We also have a guidebook for it, but some quick screenshots here of what it would look like. Basically, your clients would set up a tab inside of Microsoft Teams chat or channel where they can either post all of our courses or one selected course. And then the users would actually open the course and take the training directly inside Microsoft Teams. Managers can also run reports directly inside Microsoft Teams. That's been a really big deal for us. We've had really positive feedback from a lot of you guys, so we're really excited about that. We've had some feedback recently from MSPs that would love to see some enhancements to the reporting, so we're working on that, and also some additional integrations, so look for those coming later this year. The only really noticeable big update since our last webinar is we have a new catalog, a new course catalog. You can see the link to it down at the bottom of this slide, www.tripletech.biz/downloads/course_catalog.pdf. That's super easy to remember. But also just ask Nancy at bigger-brains.com. Not only can she give you a copy of the current catalog, she can also make a custom branded version of the catalog for your MSP, something you can present to your clients that shows off all 180 courses and also talks about all the features of why our training is so much better than other types of training. Topics that we cover. We try to be comprehensive on the Microsoft side, and we're pretty close on that. We cover pretty much everything in the Microsoft app world, from Microsoft Office, Office 365, Microsoft 365, Power BI, SharePoint, Flow is coming, so a little bit of admin recently, and so on. We've also covered a little bit of Google and Adobe, not much, but we're growing out those catalogs, and Salesforce is one we added last year as well. We have a great suite of QuickBooks courses. We also cover a lot of business skills, a lot of communication, sales and marketing, time management, and email management are two of our biggest areas. Delegation, new manager, compliance. For those of you who live in one of the 7 areas in the US where workplace harassment is required by law for clients over a certain size, this can be a great solution for saving your clients money, because they automatically have access to legally compliant training for all 7 of the designated regions in the US that require the training. And again, you can download a copy of the catalog from there if you're interested. If you missed our last webinar, we also rolled out a couple of marketing campaigns that are free for you to use. There's a series of social media posts and blog posts basically around starting 2021 right, a lot of time management and planning the new year and that sort of thing. Still not too late to take advantage of those. You'll find those in the marketing portal in your reseller account, or again, if you can't find them, ask Nancy. We also rolled out a whole new series of marketing collateral that's easily custom branded. I didn't know this was possible, but our marketing team set it up so when you open the PDF, you can put in your logo, your phone number, your contact information, and it populates through to all the flyers in the library, which is kind of cool. So that is a real quick 10-minute overview of everything about Bigger Brains. If you have any questions about anything related to us, feel free to reach out to Nancy at bigger-brains.com. So now I want to kind of turn things over to TBSC, and I want to talk about why their solution was particularly appealing to me, and why I think it'll be appealing for you as well. Bigger Brains seeks to fill a gap, right? We exist to help your clients be more productive. We exist to help your clients be more efficient. And in particular, we help you help your clients be more productive and efficient, right? So we want you to be seen as that trusted advisor, that virtual CIO, the person who's helping their business be more successful, not just by being reactive and fixing issues when they happen, but also helping their business to be more proactive, more productive, more profitable, by helping their employees learn how to use the tools that they already have. The challenge with that is, I don't know about you guys, but when I was an MSP, I didn't necessarily have great insight into what my clients were actually doing with the tools they had, right? I mean, unless they came to me with a specific request, I could not tell you which employees at a given client site were using Microsoft Excel, which employees at a given client site were using OneDrive, or we're using SharePoint or Teams. And so when offering training, it becomes kind of a, here's a lot of courses, pick the ones that are best for you, and hard to make it more targeted to individual users, again, unless they specifically ask a question. TBSC offers a solution that can help with that, and not only help your clients understand the areas where they may be falling short productivity-wise, but also look for areas where they're wasting money. And we all know that if you can save your client a bunch of money, hopefully it makes your bill look all the smaller for them as well. For those of you who are familiar with rapid fire tools, I kind of see this as a tool set in a similar vein. With my last MSPs, we would use rapid fire tools as a way to kind of get our foot in the door with new clients. And we could go in and do the network assessment, do a security assessment, and then show those reports to the client to show not only how our MSP is different from our competitors or different from whichever partner or whichever competitor they're using right now, but also to show how much value we can add to their organization. And I think what TBSC has to offer is a similar sort of solution in the Microsoft 365 space. So having said all that, I'm curious about your answers on how many of your existing clients are at takeaway. And the numbers are a bit smaller than I expected, 20%, 10 to 20%. Interesting. So a lot of your clients are still coming from unmanaged clients. So that's interesting. So that's good information for me as well. Meanwhile, I'm going to turn things over to Madison Miller from the Business Software Center to tell us about what they have to offer the MSP community. And Madison, do you want me to stop sharing from here and you share your PowerPoint from there?
Yes, I'll share my PowerPoint.
All right, so I'm stopping mine.
Okay, and I'm not quite sure how to make my video appear. Do I need my video?
Should be a start video button, but let me see. Sometimes there's a, no, I don't have any control for it here. Do you not have a start video button?
Yeah, it says you cannot start your video because the host has stopped it.
Oh, well, I would blame the host for that. We should have a talk with that guy. Oh, I know what. Yeah, I go in, this happens every single time, and I have to find the setting every single time. Allow panelists to start video. There you go. Try it now. There you are. Sorry about that.
It's a bit blurry, but that's okay. All right. I have like a glare. All right. Can you see my screen then? Yeah, I'm not quite sure. Maybe I should just turn it off if that's distracting. Okay.
Either way.
Can you see my presentation screen?
We're actually seeing your, we're seeing your slide deck right now.
Okay, great. All right, so yes, thank you, Chip, for giving us this opportunity to discuss our product. My name is Madison, and I'm the marketing coordinator here at the Business Software Center. We call it TBSC for short, and if you ever need to get in contact with us, you can email us at info@businesssoftwarecenter.com. We're really happy to be here to share what we do, how we do it, and how to help you grow your cloud business. And we're going to do that today by showing you Microsoft 365 optimization through our product, Smarter SaaS. So within 2020, we had the opportunity to conduct some research, and our primary focus was Microsoft 365 users, licensed users. And this was a combination of people between remote staff and office staff. And this was over 10,000 users that we looked into across various organizations. And we definitely noticed, because of the pandemic, there was just an increase of different organizations just completely switching to remote work in general, whether that was tech, education, retail, etc. So we were able to collect data from that. And I just want to review the biggest findings that we found with our research. The first and foremost biggest find we had was this: 89% of organizations are not fully utilizing their Microsoft 365 applications. And this is a danger area for several different reasons. One, you're losing money, you're not paying for what you're using, you're not getting a return on your investment. 89 is a huge number. And we only found that means 11% of users are fully utilized. And so that means that businesses have different remote employees or office employees who are using either some, all or none of their Microsoft 365 applications. We also found that 5% of remote employees are non-compliant. And this is especially dangerous when it comes to your licensing agreements, just because this risks getting fines, audits, or worst case scenario, court appearances. So to avoid your compliance issue, it would be best to track and monitor your usage just so you know where you're installed versus where you're not installed. And oftentimes we find that these remote employees are installed on devices they don't even use anymore. So that's just an interesting tidbit to take away from this. And then we also found that 43% of users don't use Teams at all. And this doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to us, because if you're already paying for this 365 application, Teams is included with that. So exactly what's going on? Are they using Skype for Business? Are they using Zoom? Are they using Google? Why is it they're not utilizing all of what all of what Microsoft 365 embodies? And so these are certain questions that you can go to your clients and ask directly if you notice that they're paying for Teams but not exactly using it. And so what is the biggest problem with Microsoft 365? Well, as I said, Microsoft 365 efficiency is not measured in most organizations, meeting the 89%. So we find that most customers are in this red area, 50% or less efficient typically. Most customers are here. And the goal for the Business Software Center is to, of course, get everyone up to that green area where few customers are. And this green area means 95% or better efficiency. And with Microsoft, they want you to be at least 95% efficient with their applications. So this is just a great way of getting your clients up there with the help of our Smarter SaaS. So how exactly did we get the data that I mentioned earlier? Well, that's our Smarter SaaS tool. It gives detailed Microsoft 365 usage analysis, and throughout this presentation, we're going to break down other features and benefits of our Smarter SaaS product. But before I get into that, I do just want to go over a Forrester study that we found called the Total Economic Impact of Microsoft Teams. And so you can see here on the right-hand side, we have the little graphic of the benefits of using Microsoft Teams. And this was primarily done through 2020 and the pandemic as well. They noticed that there was a reduction in greenhouse gases because no one had to drive. There's all-in-one solutions, so you can save time and money because Microsoft Teams gives you all the communication tools that you need. But yes, you can reduce the costs of collaboration. You can accelerate decision-making using Microsoft Teams. And of course, you can improve the customer and employee experience because you have the meetings, the scheduling, and the text and the chats all in one platform for you. So Forrester really came out with some interesting remote work studies information with Microsoft Teams that we will share with you later on how to definitely improve the Teams experience with Smarter SaaS. But before I get into that, I just want to do a background of the Business Software Center. Now, we are primarily based in Basingstoke, England, but we do have another office in Irvine, California. So you can reach us in any different time zone. It's quite all right. And you can email us at info@businesssoftwarecenter.com. Now, with our past, we did sell other technologies for 365 cost cutting. And we noticed that there was no usage optimization or partner revenue driving facilities. So that's whenever we decided to start developing our Smarter SaaS solution. So our response was to also create a partner portal, which is like a management SaaS portal. And that gives you just an overview dashboard where you can monitor all your clients and see all their usage entirely from one dashboard. It makes it completely easy to use. And so with our Smarter SaaS and the management portal, of course, you can get a better sense of how to optimize your clients and increase the return on investment. It helps drive incremental revenue streams for the partners. And of course, it's approved by Microsoft for co-sell. And what's really nice is our product you can download for free for the free trial on Microsoft Marketplace and Azure. So with our Smarter SaaS, we help you achieve the best practices, which means that we help you set goals for your business. So even before looking at the data, maybe you have some goals that you're already looking for. We know with software asset management, one of the biggest goals is cost savings. So we can certainly help you with that. And then we can do that by helping you measure your usage, of course, identify the variances within that. And then we can automate different solutions for you and implement them. And one way we can automate that is through subscription recycling, whether that is reharvesting a subscription, downgrading, etc. And then, of course, with Smarter SaaS, we can identify exactly where your team needs training, where your client's team needs training. And then we make sure that you're using the right facilities for your Microsoft 365 just to make sure you're as optimized as possible. So this is where MSPs come in. And I would say the M365 supply chain is huge. Everyone is selling it. I'm sure you understand that Microsoft is really big and everyone kind of gets their hand in the pot. So CSPs, MSPs, etc. Everyone is selling these licenses, whether that's through telecommunications, PC suppliers, etc. And even clients can buy this directly from Microsoft AppSource. So the question here I have for you as an MSP is what makes you different? What makes you stand out? What makes a client want to come to you over somebody else? And so we can help you differentiate yourself with our Smarter SaaS product. And I'm just going to go over the winners and losers that we find in MSPs. Now, we found a study that said 1 in 4 MSPs will not exist by the end of 2021. And you certainly do not have to be the 3 that fall away. And the way you can do that is look out for opportunities for added value. So we see that the losers that are going to fail in the MSP business are the ones that are still doing traditional hosting or telecommunications, simply not doing changes or being progressive and staying in the now. Whereas the winners see different opportunities for partnerships, and they can add that value add that really helps their client experience. So of course, what can you do? This is where Smarter SaaS, our tool, comes in. So I'm just going to go over briefly how our Smarter SaaS product can help you. Now, we did launch our Smarter SaaS product in May of 2020, and since then we have provided several updates based off of feedback from our clients. And so our first update that we were able to come out with is our free health check. And we're really excited about this because it's entirely free, easy to download, takes about 10 minutes to set up. And of course, I said you can download this directly from Microsoft AppSource or Marketplace, or you can go through our website to do that. And what it does is it basically gives you a benchmark of where your client is at. So of course, we'll give you this little chart from red to green and show you where your overall efficiency or usage is. And then we can provide solutions on how to improve that. And for anybody who wants to keep their information anonymous, of course, we can anonymize user details, so you don't need to worry about that. And you get the full feel of the dashboard whenever you have this free health check in place. So you can really get your hands on with it and get all the information you need. And now what we can do is look within the past 180 days. So say, for instance, you start today, we can backtrack and monitor your usage from the past 180 days, which is fascinating because we can see whether you're overpaying or underusing your licenses and really come up with certain patterns that we see and offer different ways on making that better for you. And so our number 2 is the managed service. And I would say this is really nice if you're looking to partner with us, because what we can do is white label our product for you. And so basically what we can do with the efficiency chart, our Smarter SaaS dashboard, etc., is change the color, provide the logo that you'd like us to use. So you don't have to be limited to just using TBSC's color or logo. You can really make this your own. And so you can see that on the right-hand side, this is a picture of what our dashboard looks like. You get kind of like a visual of the usage reports. So you can see a subscription breakup, total users, savings to date, etc. This also helps with your stock controlling. Of course, it does give you the benchmarking. You can have the option of Teams optimization, And then what's really nice about this is it gives you the chance to maximize your rebates. So I know that with certain things, if you're able to increase the usage on certain products, Microsoft can get rebates for you. And then also this improves your customer loyalty as well. And I can go into that in a bit more detail. So as a managed service, what you can do is export everything via CSV file, for instance, and then you can collect that data and then explain to your customer exactly what they're looking at. So you're not just throwing them out there and giving them all this data, you're actually going to walk them through what you found and offer different solutions that they can do to improve their current situation. And one of the ways that you can do that is, of course, through the automatic features that we have, whether that's through compliance or reharvesting, etc. Okay, so with the stage 3 of growing your cloud business with Smarter SaaS, of course, automated add-on sales is another thing that helps make you stand out, whether that's with RPA and benchmarking. But we do offer 40 other SaaS services as well. So say you do something beyond Microsoft 365, say you sell Adobe licenses or work with Salesforce. We have the capability of incorporating that into our Smarter SaaS product, so that way you can monitor over these 40 plus SaaS apps. Of course, with the add-on sales, you can do the targeted training like we mentioned earlier. So I would say, for instance, we'll actually go over that in the next slide. So I'll wait until that to go over it. But then with the tenancy integrations, what I find fascinating about this is you can see what your customers are using, what they're not using, and you can ask them questions. Well, are you running on any third-party applications? And if they are, typically what you can do is get them integrated into Microsoft Teams. You can also look at voice subscriptions or with AV and virtual meetings. If you want to improve the virtual meeting experience, of course, you can sell audio and visual equipment on top of that. So this is a slide I was talking about with the training. So I'm going to just dive a little deeper into the training just because this is really interesting as well as informative. So yes, we can automate sales training for you using our Smarter SaaS. And as you can see, we like to use color coordinated information. Obviously, green is good, red is bad. So you can see on this right-hand side, green means good. There's full usage going on. And then you get the murky colors, which is like, okay, you're using it a bit, but this certainly can be improved. And of course, red, you can see a lot of zeros. That means they're not using meeting counts, team chats, etc. And so what you can do is you can target each one of these users and ask, okay, well, why is it they're not using this? Is it because they don't know how to use Teams? And so what we can do is help align the right course for you. We can prepare the email distribution, and then over time, we can measure the usage improvements. So, you know, we can schedule an appointment a month from when you implement it and see, has the usage improved to increase the return on investment with the current Microsoft 365 license. So that was a lot of information. At this time, I can go ahead and stop, and we can take any questions if we have any. And then what we can do is pass it off to Phil to do the demo for us.
That's awesome. Thanks, Madison. So if anybody has any questions at this point, feel free to type them into the chat or the Q&A in the Zoom portal. So Jerry asked, do users have to be using Office 365 files in SharePoint to identify the usage of Excel? Madison or Phil, I don't know if one of you guys want to tackle that or if that's part of the demo coming up.
Yeah, so there's a number of ways. So if they have Excel downloaded, we can provide some capability for them to do on-premise monitoring. But normally what we're going to be doing is we're going to be showing if they've provisioned it. For Excel or for Office applications, we can pick up certain usage information, and I'll just show you in the demonstration the major apps and how you get a general overview of it. So I will show you some of the subscriptions and how you can target particular usage on certain apps. Obviously, it's easier where they're using things in the cloud rather than where they're using things on their own devices, but there is an option to do that if you want to track that.
Well, great. And I see Saviz has raised his hand. Saviz, I will come back and unmute you after the demo, if that's okay. Meanwhile, I'll let Phil proceed with the demo and let's see what it's all about.
Okay. Okay, so can you see dashboard?
Yep.
So first thing I'm going to say is this is the generic dashboard. We've got various information in here. The technology is available in different currencies just for the purposes of the demonstration. I know some of you are in Europe, some of you are in the States, but obviously if it's a US customer, you're going to see all of the values in dollars, and if it's UK, it's sterling. If it's EU, it's going to be in euros. But just if we just take that as one aspect, then I'll just explain how we look at the economics of their subscriptions. So what we're showing here is a typical implementation of the health check. And this particular customer, we've turned it on and we've seen their data of what they're using and what they're not using. And we see that they're using 64% of their subscriptions effectively. So we've got some challenges here, and overall they're on a monthly contract, a CSP contract, and there's £6,000 here per month as opportunities. So that's going to be roughly equivalent to 36,000 a year. They've not made any changes so far, but if they did do some changes or if they improved their situation, they'd start to see their savings clock up here. So increased usage due to training would start to show their savings or optimization benefits. Now we can see here that surplus subscriptions, there's zero opportunity there because they've allocated everything out and provisioned it for all their users. But we can see on reharvest and optimization, there are some benefits there. So I'll just click. And what you can see here is, you could see, but I just need to refresh my data. Sorry about that. So what we'll be seeing here is people who are not using their technology at all. And in effect, these are people, as we can see here, I'll just expand this out, and they're inactive on all of their major apps. Now, you'll see here the user principal name is normally their email address, but on a health check, we anonymize all of the usernames. So for them, they're happy that their data is secure, and when they want to go ahead and turn it to a production service, then we take the anonymization off, and of course then you see all of the usernames, and you would know that all of these users are inactive and not using things. So the first thing that you're probably going to do is you don't want people who are inactive and left the organization to be continuing to use it. So it's sensible to have a methodology to reharvest these subscriptions or recycle them. And we are able to click on this button, and a pre-prepared email goes out to all of these email addresses and says, we notice you're not using your key Microsoft 365 applications. Click the button if you're going to continue using it. And the ones that you don't hear from then can be compared to, say, HR records. And you can then run a reharvesting script, and it will take all of those subscriptions that we can see here, and their value will be all put back into the surplus box, and then they can make a choice whether they want to cancel those subscriptions or reallocate them to some new users. So typically, if they're on a monthly contract, they're probably going to look to do something like reharvesting those subscriptions and canceling their subscriptions. If they're on an annual commitment or a 3-year, say, an enterprise agreement, then they're probably going to recycle those and reallocate them to new users as they start to come into the organization. Now, another thing that we've got here is optimization. And optimization, to one example, could be, well, maybe we could move them down from, say, an E3 to an E1. But more often than not, the organization has purchased these for a particular reason. And what we're looking to do here is obviously try to get people to use the things that they've actually been allocated. And a great way to do this is through training. And as Madison said, well, teams, we see there are people who are active and inactive. And again, we know who they are, and we can start to do some optimization here by increasing the adoption rate. So how would we increase adoption? So I'm just going to shrink this down and go into Teams as an example and show you information about Teams. So we can see here, this is quite interesting that this organization got just a 27% active usage. And one other aspect that's really interesting is the people who are active users. You can see here the tall element of usage information is around private chat message. They're not really using their team chat very much, call count or meeting count. So consequently, we would say not only do they have a large proportion of their people not using Teams at all, but the ones who are using it are not particularly sophisticated users, because we would expect to see more of these particular behaviors in their users. So how would we go about helping this organization to improve the usage? And I'm just going to pull out this chart, and I'll show this as a table. And what we've got here is the chart that Madison showed earlier. And we've got two elements to this. One is the color coding, and the other is with numerical data at the bottom. And in all cases, we've got the anonymized email addresses. But if it was a production service, then we could we'd have the email addresses, and we take off the anonymization, and then you've got a full list of the users, their email addresses, and their activities, what they're actually using Teams for. Now, in this case, I pulled the data last year, so the last activity date was the 29th of June last year. Now, the first task I'm going to do is look at how we would focus on the people who are not using it at all. And immediately I've just clicked on that, and I can see all of these people are 0 on everything within Teams. So I would really direct to these people. I would send out the link to the Bigger Brains training course, and I would be suggesting that they start to use the entry-level courses for Teams. So consequently, what we're doing now is targeting the people with the right type of course, giving them a bit of direction, and then as they go through that, hopefully we're going to start to see them being more active on Teams. And the other thing that we can then start to do, and like we've got with all of these people, is their sporadic users. And we would probably pull those out with their email addresses, and we would then start to get them to do the more advanced courses. They probably don't need the basic course because they've already started using it, but they've got gaps to fill. And we can see that some of them are active on certain elements, but not others. Now, if we wanted to be even more targeted, and say, for instance, there's some other opportunities, then it's very easy to look at the people who are very active on meetings. And there's certain things here that we can then start to see. And other things, like some of our partners are very keen to sell voice capabilities into Teams. And so they click on those, and immediately they can see the people who are active on voice. So what you've got here is a fairly good way of just looking at things in on a usage basis, and then helping your customers to say, you've got these people who are not fully using their facilities. This is how we can target our training to really give some added value. So I'll just go back and show you some examples. We've got all of these other applications like Exchange, OneDrive, Skype, SharePoint, Yammer, etc. So again, you can start to look at that and be more targeted. And there's another element that I'll just mention, which is compliance. And as Madison mentioned, often we find in certain organizations that users have gone out and installed the capabilities on 365 subscriptions onto many devices. Now, in this case, we've only got one user who has installed 11 times across different environments. Now, theoretically, so long as they're below 5 on the individual environments, they're compliant. But we do find in certain organizations up to 25% or more of people who've gone out and installed on local devices. And this can indicate that there's a lack of control in the organization from just general management, but also in certain cases, it could leave them open to issues around compliance with their licensing terms. Sometimes users also ask and say, well, can you show me my users who are just online users and who can just use the online capabilities? And so consequently, if we go down to the bottom here, we can see people, all of these people are just using their technology online and they've not installed locally on any devices. So all of the facilities I'm showing you here are in the health check. The anonymized version is going to show you all of this information, so you can turn it on and it takes about 10 minutes, quarter of an hour just to establish the links through the API into their Microsoft tenancy, and then it will give all of this information so you can show it to your customers and say, hey, you've got a bit of an issue here, a lot of your people are not using Teams, this is how we can solve the issue for you, a lot of your people are not using Exchange, etc. So you're then able to target your training out to the right people. And the other thing that you can do is, because they're using the dashboard, they can see the month-by-month improvements and the effect that the training is having on their usage levels. So the idea really, as Madison showed you earlier, was we've also got some extra reports in the service that you as one of the partners would have, and it shows you that chart of the red, orange, yellow, green, and it shows you exactly where your customers are, and it benchmarks your customers against each other, so you can see how many have moved up into the green area. And you can also show the customers and give them viewing rights if you want to see some of their individual reports. So it's giving you a structure, and really the old adage of what you can measure gets managed. And we think that in many cases, organizations are a bit blind in what they've actually achieved through their deployments of 365. And the combination of our measurements and usage dashboard combined with the Bigger Brains training helps the users to get a lot more out of their investments. So I think I've covered everything now. What I'm going to do is just go back to Chip and Madison, and we can round off the conversations.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Phil. We do have a couple of questions in the Q&A, and again, if anyone has questions, feel free to ask it in the Q&A section on Zoom or in the chat, or you can raise your hand as Saviz has done, and I will try to unmute you in just a minute, technology permitting. So Andrew asks, this is going back to earlier in the demo when you showed how to run the report and issue the email out to those who weren't actively using the different technologies. He says, if they're not using Office 365 email, then what's the good sending them an email to ask them about it? And I think I know the answer to that, but Phil, I'll let you or Madison take that.
Yeah, I mean, if they're not using the email, or then consequently, we can delve into this a little bit deeper and give a lot more information about their usage behaviors. Sometimes it looks like people might be using emails, but really they're just on an auto respond, but we are able to sort of cut through that and give a greater level of detail. One of the things that we always do is we say, you know, check the details against the HR records, because if somebody has left, then, you know, you can just pull that information. These are the people who are not using anything, and consequently you can compare it to the HR records and say, yeah, all of these people have left. Usually when I go through this with a customer, they'll say, oh, I already know these people and they've left, or they were on assignment or whatever. So just giving them the visibility of the names of the email addresses, they're able to start to go through and clear out a lot of these users.
And just to follow on from that, so an MSP using the free assessment product can demonstrate to the client that there are these users out there, and then they can upgrade to the paid version to actually see the usernames and work through those with the client. Is that accurate?
Yeah, exactly right. When you're doing the free assessment, you don't want to have the usernames turned on because you know, where a user can see all of the email addresses, they start going off and doing their changes straight away. So always on a proof of concept or on a health check, we always say, you know, make it, we keep it as the anonymized version. And then when they say, yes, I want to start the optimization, then you turn it, we turn the anonymization off and you go to the production version. And that's when it becomes a payable service.
Mm. We do have a couple other questions, but I just wanted to mention, in my last MSP, you know, some of this, you know, you can do kind of the old-fashioned way, right? And we had a law firm client that it was not that large. They had 35 users, but one of the things we discovered early on, kind of a little bit by accident, because we weren't actually, you know, doing any sort of formal audit, was that the owner's son had been the one who had been in charge, or one of the senior partner's sons had been in charge of setting up the Office 365. And at some point, he had just purchased 50 licenses for E3, I think it was. And you know, they only had 35 users. So when we downgraded them from 50 licenses to 35, the cost savings just from that was more than our monthly management fee. So they always thought of us as free. For years, they thought we were just the best deal ever.
Yeah, we had one organization that was on a very large enterprise agreement, and they'd never gone through and recycled any of their subscriptions. So it was an enormous organization, and they employed lots of contract workers, and all they'd done was they kept allocating out new subscriptions to all of these contract workers, and when contract workers left, they never recycled the subscriptions. And so consequently, when Microsoft came along and did the annual true-up, they said, well, you've gone over by thousands of subscriptions against your maximum. And Microsoft said quite rightly, well, you owe us for all of these extra subscriptions. So we ran the analysis for them, and it turned out they'd got thousands that were not being used at all, and they were all these contractors who'd left the organization. So I think it's quite important for all organizations, large and small, to actually keep a handle on this, and it's good housekeeping, really.
No, definitely. So Andrew also asks, if we have a dashboard access to all our users, can we give specific clients direct access to their own dashboard?
Yeah, exactly right. So it works a bit like a hierarchy. So you can see all of your clients' dashboards, and you can also see comparison charts. And then you can give viewing rights out to your individual customers so that they can see only their reports.
Excellent. And then we have just one more question that I can see in the Q&A. If I've missed any, someone let me know. But Jerry asks, if as an MSP, you have a list of users that say have a 365 basic license, just essentials, and you know that they just use it for email purposes, they don't use Teams, and the business doesn't want them to use Teams, can you exclude them at the outset from the Teams analysis to get a clearer picture?
Yeah, so one of the things that we can do is where I showed you some of those analysis, we can sort of just block out certain columns. You know, that certain organizations say, well, we don't want people to use Yammer, so that's irrelevant for us. So we just block those out. So we can change them and customize them for you.
Excellent. And one more question from Jerry. He asks, can you explain a bit more about how the desktop app usage can be monitored?
Yeah, so we have a component which you can take, and you can allow them to download it, and then together with you, we'll just set up the technologies that they want to monitor, and you can tell them which packages they want to monitor, but they'll have to, in effect, put the component onto the devices, and then it will keep reporting what they have used locally. It tends to be useful in certain cases, and particularly some technologies that are quite sort of expensive on a license basis, people use it for. I would say it's a small percentage of our customers who actually do that on the downloaded apps. They're more saying, yeah, okay, we know they've downloaded them, so that that's okay. But yeah, certain apps, and often it can be with some of the CAD/CAM type apps as well. It works for more or less any app that's running on a PC.
And I would imagine, is that just PC, or is there also a Mac version?
It's primarily for PC versions. We're primarily, working on the Microsoft technologies.
Well, people on a Mac can use Office 365, just to be clear.
Oh yeah, we can see that the Macs have downloaded the components. Yeah.
Sure. No, I'm just joking. A couple more questions. Andrew asks, can we push the monitor component with our RMM? Is it pushable using a script? Is that something that could be distributed out through Active Directory as a MSI package or similar?
You mean the locally installed component?
I think so, yes.
Yeah, you just package it up as an MSI file, and it can be distributed, yeah, as a script, yeah.
Excellent. And then Jerry's asking, does that information then feed into the dashboard?
It feeds into a separate dashboard, and we can extract the data out of it to sort of, merge it in together. But you've got a separate dashboard that gives a little bit more information about the usage levels. It can tell you how many times people have accessed it and things like that, and the length of time.
Excellent. And Jerry also asks, do you have a list of the other SaaS platforms somewhere that you support and how you integrate with those?
Yeah, we've got a list which we can make available and circulate around to everybody who's attended.
Excellent. And he also asks, what's the roadmap for future items?
Okay, so in terms of where we're going for future items, there are, we're gradually adding in additional technologies, additional SaaS technologies. One of the things for the future that we see is really around process automation. I showed you how you can see people who need training. And one of the great things is potentially looking at this as a automated way to create new value-added sales opportunities for our partners. So let's say, for instance, you wanted to target people who were maybe good for audio visual sales opportunities, etc. And then what we would do is just automate those processes. So we're looking to build in a lot more automation and a lot more automation of management of the subscriptions. So we can make the life a lot easier and take out a lot of the manual tasks. I think that's the future, really, to use it, the data that we collect, to automate management tasks.
That's a great idea. And it may be something that we could look at integrating together in the future as well. We're looking at some ways to automate distribution of specific courses. So for example, assigning a specific course to a user through Microsoft Teams or through our BrainBot app as well. So that may be down the road someday. One more question from Jerry. Can Power BI be monitored?
Power BI, we do show which users have got allocations of Power BI, and it can be monitored. It needs some different access credentials. The one that I showed you for the health check, the Smarter 365, is really quick and easy for us to do. The Power BI and some of the other apps take a little bit longer, and they do need a different access credentials, but we can do them, and certain users are starting to do that.
Excellent. And then Jerry just asked, how do we get pricing and more info? And I just posted in the chat. Feel free to reach out to Nancy, Jerry, which I know you're already talking to Nancy at bigger-brains.com, and she can get you plugged into the ecosystem, so to speak. The paid plans start under $100 US per month. And then there's a variety based on the number of users, and she can give you more information about that as well.
And it's worth saying, I think, Chip, that you know, any of the partners, anybody attending, you know, just contact Nancy, and we'll be able to organise through Nancy to start doing health checks, you know, and setting them up free of charge for you to start on that, you know, and of course they can buy through our service through Bigger Brains.
Excellent. Well, that's all the questions that I see. Phil and Madison, great presentation. I'm really excited about the product. I may be wrong. I'm a little rusty. I haven't run an active MSP since 2018, but I've not seen anything in the market that's available for MSPs to use that addresses this situation. So I think it's a great tool to have access to, and I'm glad we were able to present it to some of the Bigger Brains MSPs. We'll make this recording, we'll send this recording out to the rest of the Bigger Brains crowd. Yeah, again, for everybody on the call or anybody watching the recording, if you have any questions about it, if you need more materials about Bigger Brains or TBSC and how to get started, feel free to reach out to Nancy at bigger-brains.com. Don't forget your Bigger Brains portal is also available at biggermsp.com. And I think that's it. Nancy, Madison or Phil, any final words?
No, I'm fine. Thank you. Thanks everyone for attending.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thanks everybody. Have a great rest of your day.